Welcome back, this is ProTail Dev. This time we're going to be looking at the recent game jam that I took part in, the Yogscast game jam. So first I'll talk about how it went, and then I'll move on to the actual game that I created. So to start off with, I made a quick schedule just before the game jam, just to try and get ready. So I wanted to really focus on the functionality first, especially for the first day. So this game jam started on Friday and ended on Sunday, and it was a 48-hour game jam. So we had 48 hours to try and make a game around the theme giving. Of course we didn't know the theme until the actual game jam started, so I had to wait until the game jam had fully started, but I could basically come up with a really loose plan ready for me to try and get some basic stuff done. So I decided I wanted to do the functionality first, unlike the main project that I've been working on, which does have connections with this game, and I'll go over that in a minute. But to start off with, I wanted to work on functionality straight away, and maybe the first day just get all the basic coding in. I knew I wanted to do that before I even started, before I even knew the theme. Then after that, I wanted to do the if it moves on to the next day, hopefully I'll have a basic environment built. I'd move on to the art and more cosmetic related stuff, so more design and maybe the animation and things, and then finally get it all cleared up, ready for upload. So the game jam started, and it started at 8 o'clock on Friday, and I got straight to it. I basically, in the entire game jam, I basically had about 6 or 7 hours of sleep, which is pretty rough, especially when it's across 3 days, even though it's only 48 hours. So I ended up only about 6 or 7 hours sleep, and so it was a pretty rough one. However, even so, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I got to play a bunch of games at the end, a bunch of games that I managed to rate and give feedback on, and some people even gave feedback to me, which doesn't happen often in game jams. I've had game jams before where I've gotten no feedback, and no one's even really played it. But this time I did get quite a few plays and a few comments and feedback, so I was pretty happy with that. So the game jam started, and what I did is create a very quick plan. I decided, especially with the limited time I had and the amount of time I spent on the project off camera, the make a basic game, which is a turtle trial. I wanted to kind of theme it around that because for two reasons. One, I was very familiar with the code, so I could remember it off by heart and kind of get through it much quicker and get more done in the 48 hours I had. And the second reason was because I wanted feedback early on, and if the game is similar to the one game I've already worked on, then essentially I'm getting feedback on it without having to actually show the game early on. And this was a great opportunity because people were much more engaging in this game jam. I already knew they would be because it's the Yogscast, and they're kind of big in the UK in terms of UK channels on YouTube, and so in streaming and such, so they were quite big. I think they were all over Twitch, or at least that's what I got the impression. So it was a good opportunity to try and get feedback on the other game while doing this game. And so I started working on it. I did like I said, I did the functionality first. I stuck with my plan. I based it around about 20 to 24 hours straight up. So I didn't have a sleep until the 24 hours or 23 hours was up. And by then I'd already completed most of the code. So I worked on the player controller, the enemies. I worked to work on goals, a menu, health and damage, score, save and load, and a basic environment that I could use. At this process I didn't use any custom sprites, I didn't make any art, which is different to my other project. After that I worked on, I had a bit of a break, about 6-7 hours sleep in between then. This was on Saturday, and it was like the afternoon or something like that. And I had something to eat. I didn't have much to eat either because I didn't want to waste any time, which isn't crazy healthy, but I was quite desperate to try and get most of this game done. So I worked on the art for the next day, for the next 24 hours, or not 24 hours, it was about 16, 17 hours. I started working on art and spent a lot of time on art because I wanted it to have a unique feel. I didn't want to use too many assets from the previous game. even though I created that art myself. I didn't want to use too much of it because I wanted to give it a more unique feel, especially I wanted it to be related to Christmas and giving. So I added an environment and then began working on creating some sound and custom sound, but I started thinking I didn't have enough time, so I moved on and just decided to get a royalty-free Christmas music that I could freely use and it wouldn't be an issue. Quickly added a little bit of animation to some of the art that I'd done to give it that unique feel. Added a bit more unique UI design because before it was quite simple after doing the basic codes. And then I fixed a couple of issues that I could see straight off the bat. Did credits, which a lot of games didn't do, and I think it's a must-have. You must have credits, not just for yourself, but for things you've noted, any fonts you've used, anything. And I think a lot of games did not have that, which is a bit of a shame, really. But I feel like it's a standard for games to have some kind of credits. A lot of games didn't. Then I did a bunch of testing for the following like hour or two to try and get things right and get things working. There was quite a lot of bugs. Once I started running out of time, there was only like an hour left or something, like an hour and a half. I then uploaded it to the game jam to itch.io, and I'll have a link in the description to the game so that you can play it if you want. It isn't crazy amazing. In fact, the feedback I got kind of explains why the game really wasn't too fun to play, which is a bit unfortunate. But for a 48-hour game jam, I'm okay with that, you know. And it's at the end of the day, it's feedback for my other game, really. So yeah, the link will be in the description so you can play that. So after I did all the actual game jam, I got to play a bunch of games and do a bunch of feedback, and I was pretty happy with after the voting had ended, because it ended up being 24th. I got 24th out of 300, and I think it was like 378, but it dropped down after to like something like 352 after the voting had ended. But that's still, out of all those entries of games, I came 24th. I was very happy with that. It was need for celebration. So and again, feedback was really all I cared about. I didn't really care about ever winning. I didn't think I would, simply because there were some teams that had lots of different people and lots, you know. I remember, I think the game that won, which was Toy Workshop, had 6 people in, had like 2 coders, you know, had people for art and music and sound and stuff. So it's difficult to win a game jam when there's teams of multiple people. That's how it's always been. So I never had any intention of winning. Maybe that's why I didn't win. Anyway, so the game jam was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I got to play, like I said, a bunch of games, and it was a really good laugh. So moving on. So the reason, I've already explained the reason why I based my game off the project that I'm working on, which is Turtle Trials. And again, it's mainly for the feedback. But the reason I also didn't want to kind of move on, I wanted to try and base it around that, is also because I'm familiar with what I needed to do. I remembered the code quite well and wanted to get through it. There was some times where I might forget a little bit and get stuck, but that isn't too big of a deal. The footage that you've been seeing in the background of this video so far is footage of me creating the game from the game jam. Well, I better stop delaying and actually show you the game. Okay, so this is a game that I worked on. I based it a little bit on Scrooge, but it's a little bit of my own take on it related to turtles. So it's the Scrooge Turtle Redemption. Obviously I based it on Christmas. Now all these art assets I made myself, all the water, you may recognise it, you may not, but it's actually from some of the art that I've done previously. I'm actually not too bad at making water like this. I think it's quite easy. But I created all the art myself. This is the menu, and these are the special enemies that I created. I was pretty happy with these, especially when they're animated. So I put like a little bit of an instrumental controls at the bottom, which all you do is when you're in game you press Q. So if I press play, You can see that it's very similar to my turtle game. So, I have a little bit of a story, a narrative. It's not too heavy in this game because I just didn't have time. If I could do this game again, I would have more story related stuff to try and drive the player to explore, and I would have but again, that's part of the feedback, getting ahead of myself. So you finally arrive. I warned you of your greed, which would lead you down a path. I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to read all this because you can read it. Pause the video and read it yourself. But let's get started. So I want to travel to the living. I've been given a chance to redeem myself, and the way to do that is by giving to charity using these funds up here. And I need to collect these resources, trade them, get funds, and then spend those funds on different charities to unlock them. Okay. So I've travelled to the living, and now in an icy area. And bear in mind, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do this. Let's just try and get a couple of stuff in here just to show you what's happening. You can, like I said, you can go to these different ice plains, and it's not too big of a deal. You can try and hide away from enemies, and there are different enemies in this, though it's not a huge problem in this game. I do have pushable objects which you can use to block enemies and then push them towards like that. That was one of my fun things I'd like to do with this game, is just try and get an enemy nearby and just throw them around. So again, the UI has changed as well, so you can see at the bottom that I've got armor, which I'm not sure if the videos on my channel have gotten up to that point for the project, but at the bottom there's armor. If I get hit by an enemy, then the armor will go down. So as you can see here, I've got my controls if I press Q. I can save the game, I can load the game, which I discovered doesn't work, and that was thanks to the feedback. I just completely didn't notice it. So as you can see, I've got all my controls, standard movements, Q for options, which is why I brought this up, and you can see the credits. You can see my real name if you want to, I'm not that bothered. And then you've got the trader, which is pressing E, and the controls, the goals for the player, which is to donate to charity. So this is E, this is the charities. You'll get more information as you unlock them, and then if you press R, you can see I can donate or eat. So it's very similar to my other game, just looks a lot better, I think. I spent a little bit more time on design because, again, players will be playing this, and if a game doesn't look nice, players just won't even look at it. So I'm just going to buy all these straight off the bat. Changed all of these. There's only 4 resources because I didn't want to spend too long. Let's just buy one of these just to get our food back up a little bit, and then do that. So now, as you can see, I got 23 funds. I do, unlike my, there's a lot of changes I've made to this game that I really like, that I ended up doing, and I'm definitely going to include them in my other game. So having my resources there, my funds there, and maybe having my skill points there might be a better choice. I think it's actually much more nicer. So as you can see, I can donate to charity. Then it says we've not got enough for some reason. Don't worry about that. So as you can see, we can afford another one, and that's exactly what I'm doing. But here you go, I don't have enough funds for that. It works the same way that our skill tree works in the other game, just a much smaller version and much more condensed version. I actually worked to condense this a lot further. So there you go, I've bought these. We got 2 secret power-ups, which is increased speed, increased food capacity. As you can see, I'm going to try and get these. See if I can find an enemy. Oh. You can push these around. And I really enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed making it. It kind of really tested my memory on the current game that I've been working on. And because I've been working on it so long... Whale, can I use this? Come on. Come on. No! No! He's slowly eating me. Oh god, I can't get him off. I'm dead. So if you die, the level doesn't restart. That's something that I did differently for this. Instead of restarting the level, I did it a lot differently for a reason. And I'm probably going to go over it more in the projects. I'm probably going to do the same. but I wanted the player just to move instead of end up restarting. There are reasons for that, and I'll go over them later. But I have found problems with it as well, so again, it's a bit more debatable whether I should do when you die not restart or not, because it's kind of causes a little problems. Oh, god damn it! In any case, what you do is you buy. This game is winnable as well. Once you buy all of the, once you were to buy all these, once you were to spend all these and then get a bunch of points, you would be able to, let's say, buy this one. As you can see, it saves. This was the reason why. I might as well go over it now instead of waiting for another video. But the reason why I wanted it to you to die instead of restart is because if you die, and I don't just restart the scene, then all of this can save, and I prefer this saving rather than having to have individual saves for all of our different features and all our different skills. This way I don't need to do that right now straight off the bat. However, the chances are a player will eventually want to leave the game, you know, press Q and then quit to main menu. If they do that, let's do that now and then come back in, go into here. As you can see, it didn't save any of it, so I still would need a save feature anyway, so again, it's more of a temporary fix. The game is pretty straightforward, again, very similar to the Turtle game, and I was pretty happy with it. I was pretty pleased. There's a lot of enemies. See if I can find the special enemy, the Scrooge spirits, the ghosts. Oh, we got a squid. So again, I did all the art myself. The squid was my favourite one. I didn't do the animation for the jellyfish, unfortunately. I think that was the only food I didn't animate. But the squid was my favourite to animate. I think it looks really, really creepy. Oh no! Quick, 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 quick. Yes. No! So it's a little bit difficult to try and get away from enemies. As you see, my arm is now going down. But I have stunned him. So I can try and get back and replenish my armor once I get here, and then my health, which I don't really like doing. Oh no. Can I find another ice? Yes, I can. Bring him over. So he's a little bit slower, a little bit stunned, and I don't like that feature now. After playing it for a while, I don't really think it works very well, but yeah, you can use these to push him around and like push him away. That was the reason why it acts a bit weird. I'm rambling a little bit because I kind of want to just show the gameplay off. This video is going to be a bit longer than I was originally intending, but I want to show so much. So I'm hopefully going to show you the new enemy, if I can find it. Can I find it? Hold on. Let's go here and then go down. I think there's one over here. As long as I don't get eaten in that time. Let's use this as a shield. Oh, I don't need to. So yeah, these are... Oh, yes! So these are all randomly generated, which is always fun. It always adds a little bit of replayability, but because everything... Oh, no, no, no. No, 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 no. No! Oh, damn it. Getting away from this whale is so difficult. Oh, come on. No. Well, might have to show it another time. You can kind of see it's a bit frustrating, but see if I can try and get over there. Oh, god damn it. Come on. Come on. Ah, there we go. So there's the new enemy. It's a little bit stuck at the moment. Oh god. So I'm losing my armor. I can't get attacked while my armor's getting damaged. But every time I lose the armor and it gets set to 0, I do take damage. So that's that for now. Let's go here. It's a very simple game. There isn't a whole lot, but you know, I'm actually impressed with how much I managed to get done in the 48 hours. So let's quit. So I'm going to quickly show you the feedback now. So at the end of this game jam, there was a lot less entries, but that's because people pulled out towards the voting. And it seems to be even lower, so I don't know if you can pull out your game, you know, even after the voting. I feel like it should stay the same, but as you see, yeah, out of 347 entries, we'll just say that, because even though there was more, I think it was 78 that were entered, 378 were the total that got entered before the voting started and during the submission. As you see, a lot of people rated it. A lot of people rated all the different games on the site and all the different games during this game jam. So there's a lot of people taking part, and as you can see, I came rank 24th. I was very, very happy with this. You know, got 11 ratings, so 11 people did play it at least. I was pretty happy with that. That's more than you usually get, honestly. You'd be lucky if you got anything like 24, you know, or you'd be lucky if you got anything up to, I don't know, 5. 5 would be like amazing if you got good feedback from that. 5 useful feedback is pretty good these days, and you know, especially on this site, it's very rare that you get that much activity. I find it hard when I do a game jam, which is why I don't do that many these days. I find it hard because I usually don't get that much feedback, and it's unfortunate, but it's how it is. So I did comment back to all of the comments, you know, thanking everyone and such, and I really did have a good time. Some people gave it 4 stars, 3 stars, 5 stars. The 5-star was really about how the game looked and felt, you know, the atmosphere, the eerie music. So I really think I accomplished the design and look of everything, as well as really encouraged the theme within the game. So the theme was obviously given, and I wanted to really show that. There was a lot of games that didn't really show the theme very well. But yeah, I rated a bunch of people, and I played a bunch of games. It was a lot of fun. As you can see, I commented. Some of the comments were related to things like replayability. They could keep replaying it because obviously of the regen and stuff. Some people did actually notice. I was pretty happy with that. And there was a bunch of people saying that there should definitely be more hazards in the game because the game's a little boring. Having the enemies as they are really doesn't add much to the actual game. It really is a little bit of a boring experience. And I did get that through some of the other comments as well, saying that there should be more hazards, maybe some more enemies, some kind of unique attacks. And I completely agree. I think the game is a little bit too boring, a little bit too straightforward. It kind of needs something else to push it. And if you go into a survival game these days, you won't imagine like a game like Minecraft or Subnautica or something, and they took away the ability to craft or the ability to build your own stories or have stories in those survival games. The game would simply become you just going around killing stuff, collecting resources, and not really being able to do much with them. And that kind of is what the game is, and certainly it needs some kind of way of pushing the player to explore, pushing the way. So I definitely learned that from this game jam and from some of the feedback. So I also did create a trailer on my channel, which you might have seen, which just quickly shows gameplay. It wasn't really meant to be a proper trailer, it was just meant to show gameplay and kind of tell you what you're supposed to do. The other problem I had was, again, the save and load didn't work. See if I can find it. This guy recommended doing a post-processing, which I definitely am going to look into, but this is really for games that you want to polish at the end, and I didn't really feel like I had time for that in the 48 hours. So I definitely will be trying this in my game though. I do want to look at making a day and night cycle and really using the post-processing for nighttime to make things glow. I do have other biomes in my game which I will be showing. Like I do have a coral reef biome. I would love for that to be glowing and like look really nice. Another person suggested, they gave me 5 stars because they really enjoyed it. It felt really, really nice to play. I was really happy with that. And of course, I did recommend having some kind of more enemies to fight, or even be able to fight rather than just run away, which I kind of tried to explore with the ability to use the environment rather than the turtle. Again, I wanted the theme of the turtle shouldn't be able to really fight. I wanted the turtle to be prey throughout the game, but I might figure out ways to use the environment to fight more often. So yeah, more hazards to the game. I did have an idea of using something along the lines of an event system, so what I mean by that, not like related to Unity, but an actual event system. Every now and again there'll be a random disaster that'll push the player to try and make a decision that's could either kill them or not, and then maybe have it change the environment in some way, but it's quite extreme, but I think it would certainly be crazy. So yeah, I did have the nice calm Christmas music. This person didn't really know what the bottom icon was. As you saw in the game, there was just a circle at the bottom. I knew what it was. I knew it was armor. The reason why it was just a circle with 5 on it rather than say an armor icon was because I didn't have enough time to do the art. I was struggling, and the armor kind of I wasn't too sure I was going to even implement it in this, but I did anyway. So that was the reason why I didn't have it. When it reaches 0, I didn't really explain to the player how the damaging works, so I think it confused a few people. Yep, really atmospheric, great art style, and overall I really enjoyed it. This guy didn't understand the consequences of dying, which I think, speaking to my friend, he also said he didn't really understand what the point of dying was if you just kept all your resources. But the actual truth is that you did lose stuff, you did lose funds, which would make a huge difference later on in the game. Not so much at the beginning, because at the beginning you don't really gain that many funds and charities don't cost that much. But losing funds, every time you die you would pay a fund to come back, and every time you died it would increase how many funds you'd have to pay. So the more you died, the harder the game would become to get funds. That was kind of the penalty, but it wasn't obvious at all. I didn't even mention it, so honestly I figured the player would kind of get that straight away, that their funds had gone down, but this clearly didn't happen. It wasn't obvious, so that's definitely something I need to look at. I need to make it clear what the consequences are of dying, if I'm going to do a similar dying system where you lose your stuff. But since I'm going to have the ability to save and load, and then on the other game I already made it so that loading is automatic, so when you die it loads anyway from your previous save, you do lose stuff in that no matter what. So again, it's debatable how I want the dev to work. So yeah, in the end a lot of people enjoyed it. I was pretty happy with it. So I hope you enjoyed this little look at the game jam and kind of my experience with it. It was a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to take part in probably another one, especially if it's the Yogscast game jam, because a lot of people do end up giving feedback. It was a really good it was an absolutely pleasure to do, and I really had fun, and it was really a test of memory and test of skill to try and get certain things working. I made a bunch of improvements on this game and shortened a bunch of code. I made tons of changes that I'm definitely going to implement in my main project, because there's some of it that's really good. I've changed a bunch of things. Yeah, next time we're going to be going back to our main project, and I'm going to be showing, I think the next episode is very exciting because I've done a bunch of things off camera, especially to like abilities and the map, and so I think it's really going to be an interesting thing to see. See you next time.